forward, Raph, I'm going to use nothing but really possible weed colloquialisms for the Nick Diaz sentiment that was UFC 183 is in the books, which means it's time for Verbal Tap, the show that proves fighting is way easier from outside the cage. I'm your host, Kevin Phillips. With me, of course, Raph Esparza. Raph, how are you rolling?
Terribly. I am in a very, very bad mood right now.
Why?
Well, we're starting a little late, which is never something I'm a fan of. But not only are we starting late, it's because my computers have all decided to just, fuck with me today.
Yeah. Like what we thought was going to happen with Y2K, that's what's happening in Raph's apartment right now.
I'm going to let you know, and this is a completely real sentence, you get one more Y2K version
one
of
more
any
Y2K
joke
okay.
before I fucking lose it. So we're going to move past that, and we're going to talk about our guest who's on the line, which will put me in a much better mood.
Before we introduce him, and he's fine, it's important to note I made the Y2K joke off the air. I thought it was so good I need to carry it on. I'm just appealing to the audience of the podcast. They're going to be on my side here. Twitter's going to, they're going to rectify. Let us know.
To tell you that was a worthy joke, or that we really needed to do it again, and that, you know what, that was a gift to me. And I said, Kevin, much like when a cat drops a fucking mouse on the doorstep, you just kind of look at it and you say, well, it's there, and that's what I did.
Well, what I think is most important is that I still have one more, as you have mentioned. Wait, hold on. It was one more before you lose it? Or I had like one more?
So tread lightly, because I phrased it exactly the way I wanted to. So you can figure out where you want to go with that.
Okay, well, and I'm going to move past it only because I'm pretty high in the spirit of Nick Diaz. I thought we should speak to both sides of the podcast because I've also had a shitty week. But let's go to our guest because he's good-looking and his voice is more soothing. From BJJGrappling.com, Ruben Avila.
What's going on, fellas?
Am I saying Avila correctly?
No, you're not.
It's Avila.
You did say it correct. It's Avila.
Boom! And you didn't tell us the first time that you were such a looker, Raph. This guy in his headshot I saw you put in the write-up of the podcast.
You were a little bit weird, as was talking about the abs of fighters and the way they looked.
It's a physical world
I wasn't sure there was any real reason to discuss how our guests physically look, Kevin. But let's also discuss that the one note I got back from last week's podcast via somebody just randomly texting me was, Raph, the line of the show was, the continual ellipsis that is Kevin's sexuality. I was dying. And I said, I guess it wasn't really a line that I thought was all that funny because it's just been true. But hey, the audience loves what the audience loves.
Oh, that was
good times. Maybe now we could get to the UFC event?
As Kevin is so nicely alluding, it is time to talk a little bit about the fights. Ruben, did you go to watch any of the fights this weekend?
I was able to watch a couple of fights, actually.
Okay, now, Ruben, do things change for you when there's more at stake here? Are you watching with a little more invested, if you would?
I absolutely was. It made it a little bit more fun for me. I was watching the fights, and I was cheering for good fights, but my guy wasn't winning. I was thinking, oh man, I'm going to lose my prediction. So that wasn't cool. So it was kind of like, I guess, like fantasy football. It did amplify my engagement.
Was there any moment when you accidentally cheered for somebody you didn't pick, and then had a halting moment of shit?
Plenty, yes. Because I guess I was cheering for really good fights, but then I was realizing, oh no, that's not the person that I picked, and then I forget who I picked, and then that wasn't good too. So
it is very difficult because we do these picks, and I don't want to spoil it for the audience. We do these picks about a week out, so lots of things change. Like lots of people just pass out.
I like that you don't want to spoil it for the audience.
Don't make weight. Let's say that.
Like it's that hard to grasp that we record it a week ahead of schedule.
Well, I just want to make sure that when people hear this, that when they know they are listening to us, it is up to the minute analysis.
They're tuned into the magic, baby. You're
That's
right, Raph.
Jesus, you are high. So anyway, one of the things that makes it so spectacular is, so we're a day before the fights, and we'll get to the actual fights, but let's talk a little bit about the culture of weight cutting. Kevin.
It's dangerous shit.
Yeah. Kevin, if you showed up 9 pounds overweight at 10:30 in the morning and you had the flu, what would be the first words out of your mouth?
Do you guys have maybe like a job I could do that didn't require fighting? Is there like something else I could do? Like I could be the guard for Diaz as he's coming in. Like I could do that.
No.
That would be my... I would try and immediately pitch myself as having a counter skill.
Ruben, Kevin and I don't know this all that much because we tend to fight in our weight classes, if you would. Kevin fights in several weight classes. But as someone who I'm sure, do you cut weight when you're competing?
Actually in the middle of a weight cut for a tournament, but it's completely different. I have a tournament at the end of this month, and I have to weigh in at a certain weight with the gi right before fighting, right? But I have that whole month to make that weight. There isn't a next day scenario. So it wouldn't make much sense for me to go in hydrated and emaciated and starved when the performance is going to suck. That being said, I do have quite a lot of teammates that will still wait the last couple of days and then, do whatever they have to do. Sometimes the day of the tournament, they're running sweaters and so on and so forth. And still they find a way to get it done and kick ass. But it's not the same as a UFC fighter. They seem to be able to just lean down until the last 10 or so pounds, and then they do the crazy things to manipulate their I guess, the hydration of their body, and then they have whole day to recover.
Crazy shit. Like the
crazy.
It's completely accustomed that 24 hours before a fight, many of these fighters took an extreme Epsom salt bath, followed by seconds after hitting weight, IV fluid. Like they're all getting bags of IVs seconds after they finish. That is a fucking problem. Like that is a problem.
Well, Kevin, you are transitioning ever so nicely because we had two fighters who were reported to pass out, and we've talked about the dangers of cutting weight and how extreme versions of that can be bad. But one of those folks got to fight, and the other one did not. So it brought up a weird double standard in this section, but this is the question I was waiting the entire week to ask you guys. Tyrone Woodley, not pleased Kelvin Gastelum came in 9 pounds overweight. Kelvin had a fucking flu. Then shows up those 4.5 hours later because he's like, fuck, still didn't lose the weight. Tyrone Woodley walks up to Kelvin behind the scenes and says, yo, man, I just want you to know I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the situation. Kevin, my question to you, what was the situation? Because to me, they're one and the same.
I'm going to do this. The situation was that he was both sick and a fat ass, and that he was mad about both. And it wasn't just that he was 9 pounds overweight. It was also that he was sick. Lord Spirit be with you. Because Tyrone Woodley seems like it's true. But I see your point.
Let me ask you the same question because I'm going to let Tyrone Woodley know this right here, right now. He may not have done this on purpose, but this is a phrase that is going to carry over into this podcast whenever I'm furious at Kevin. For example, listeners, Kevin, I'm not mad that you use that terrible Y2K joke. I'm just mad at the situation.
The situation is like, well, one would argue, I guess, Had I not said the joke, there would be no situation. So those seem pretty linked. But I appreciate the subtle.
I don't know. I'm just saying I'm mad at the situation. I'm mad at the situation, Kevin. Just the situation.
Yeah, but you know how mad Tyrone Woodley was.
How mad?
He fucking won. He won via decision, I think. And I compliments to Ruben because I feel like I went tough 17, Gastelum. Don't know if he was on tough 17. He was. He was definitely on tough 17. I'm sure I went tough 17 then. But Woodley took out his frustration on the situation on his opponent.
Well, okay, and Kevin, you do bring up a good point, and we'll get to the fight analysis right here, right now. But let's start up at the top. Gentlemen, did Silva versus Diaz live up to your expectations? Ruben, I'll start with you.
You know what? That was the most entertaining show I've seen in a long time. And I'm not saying it was a great fight, but it was definitely very entertaining. Man, Nick Diaz cracked me up. I love the fact that he went out Silva worse than Silva has ever clowned anyone, ever. And he tried to, it seemed like he did it to pump himself up and get into his own little fight mode. And then he went out there and he pushed forward the whole fight. He really did. He went at Anderson. Anderson danced around and picked the shots, and, you know, he won by, I guess, being more strategic. But I like the fight, man. Nick Diaz went out there. He did his thing. He did what people would expect Nick Diaz to do. He tried to beat him up. Anderson's just, you know, a little bit better strategic fighter. And he took it to him. But I like the fight. I was hoping, I really was, but, you know, no one's ever knocked Nick Diaz out, and it takes Anderson to put his chin out there to get knocked out. So I thought it was a great fight. I loved it.
All right, Kevin.
I'll say this. I agree it was entertaining. And it was so hard to explain to my friends that were watching the fight who Nick Diaz is and why he was worthy, because everyone's heard of Anderson Silva. But you have to follow MMA to know who Nick Diaz is, which is weird because he seems on that same stature. Crazy fighter that will now, I think, like, in some sort of weird MMA way, he cemented a spot in history. On the same night, Anderson Silva also cements history with the most amount of UFC wins, though it seems like that a lot of those records are in jeopardy because of his long embrace partner, John Jones. Which I hope we're going to talk about that very sincere embrace that they had at some point. But really fun fight. Like, it really was. I agree. I just wanted it to be finished. I could have also used a scotch of jiu-jitsu. I'm saying 25 minutes feels like at least 1.5 of them could have spent in some half-guard maneuvering, maybe doing some attacks. Like, just put it on display, gents.
Kevin, let's discuss. Who's going to go into half guard?
One of them could have.
Between those two? No, they're not.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Be real.
Who's getting
for a second.
submitted? No one. They're so sweaty and neither of them really care. But
Yeah,
they
exactly.
could have put on a little
If somebody's
exhibition.
underneath. You know what happens in an MMA fight? People can punch, Kevin. Nobody wants to start from the half guard. That's not exactly like, oh yeah, you know what? This is my most ideal and money place because guess what? This person's not going to punch me while I try and set up for this lucrative
No,
knee bar. Oh,
no,
ow.
seriously. Keep arguing logic in a fight where someone laid down voluntarily in the first round and got back up. Please, no.
That's fine,
Explain to
Kevin.
me
And
that
you
they
can
couldn't
continue
No, the
to
progression of the
use
fight
whatever-
goes like
law that you're waiting for, but you know that deep down inside, you actually wanted to see jiu-jitsu with two black belts
yeah.
who were neither of them in their deepest of hearts saying, yeah, this is going to the ground. Both of them wanted to keep this fight standing up. And Kevin, I'm just saying, I'm not mad at you. I'm just mad at the situation of your thinking.
Okay, I think I understand.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, good. Let me ask this, though. I mean, I think everybody walked away a little disappointed. Takeaways that I thought were positive. Anderson Silva still looks very, very sharp and dangerous. That's the most important thing. Dangerous at 39, because I think the only difference is this. At no point did I see him try to go for the kill to knock out Nick Diaz. Ruben, I'm
No.
going to ask you,
Yeah.
do you feel it's because he wanted to stay a little more in the fight, or do you fear that he was nervous he would expose himself if he was trying to go for the kill?
Well, I mean, Anderson is coming off of two horrible losses. He broke his leg, which is, just I don't even have a word for that, but I mean, he couldn't have had the exact same mentality that he had in his earlier years. I think it was maybe a little bit due to I do feel like he did look a little bit older. I felt like his reflexes were a little bit slower. They don't look quite as good as they used to be. I think it was just I think he was a little gun shy.
Ruben, I'll agree with
to.
you on this. I'll say this as well. I think for Anderson, you're right about the reflexes because the Anderson Silva of old would let you like drop his hands and kind of let you get into the fight. And Anderson was still doing that a little bit, but he was off a tick where he'd be taking some punches where he couldn't matrix his way out of it like he normally could. Having said that, Kevin, some people are saying that this should be Anderson Silva's last fight. Are you one of those people?
Are you kidding? I thought for sure he was setting up a joke when he was like, my family doesn't want me to fight anymore. My wife, I thought he was going to be like, but fuck that, I'm coming back. I'm going to kill someone. That's what's next. He's like, get GSP's retired steroid ass back in this cage. I'm going to smack him down. Like, that's what I was waiting for. I don't think Anderson Silva's done fighting, mostly because when he's focused, like, Nick Diaz might be one of the hardest goddamn people to knock out in the UFC. He might be. Like, I don't know anyone else that could have withstood some of the blunt force, straight rights that he was taking. It was brutal. That's why his head was all chopped up. Like, it was a rough night on Diaz's face. Like, all credit to Diaz for still pushing forward, but he's a warrior. Silva's fighting again. For sure.
Okay, so you say the family has no input in this.
I'm saying the family has input, but they're living in a warehouse, each of them, that's all built on a mountainside erected out of Silva's honor. Like, he's the highest paid MMA fighter in the world.
Well, that's actually debatable. We did see how much he got paid. He got paid $500,000 and $200,000 for extra, I guess, winning bonus, one might say.
He probably also won a Harley.
Yes, that's okay. Well, here's the other question I guess I'll pose to you guys is, Kevin, I know you're saying he will, but what do you want? Do you want him to continue fighting?
Yeah, I do. I don't think he's done. I think he could beat Chris Weidman.
Okay, well, the Chris Weidman's folks are saying that's not a good idea. They don't really, really want it. Ruben, are you in the same place? Do you want to see him continue to fight?
I have one last one I want to see him do, and that's the GSP fight. It doesn't make a lot of sense. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see him against Weidman. I think Weidman is going to beat him. Even before he knocked him down with a pretty good shot. And I think Anderson's. I think that's it. It's time to call a wrap. Go out on top. Don't go out like Roy Jones. Is Roy Jones still fighting?
Probably.
Wouldn't know. The only fight that people are talking about in boxing is allegedly Pacquiao and Mayweather had a discussion at a basketball
court. Fucking basketball game. Yeah. Look out. It was the Bucks and the Heat. Like, no way anything good is happening because the Bucks played the Heat last.
By the way,
Tuesday.
Let's just say this real quick. Dick move to go upstage the Bucks versus the Heat.
I know. People were talking about how, like, even the players would have been okay if they were just like, let's settle this right here. They would be like, screw the game. Let's find out how this goes.
I'm pretty sure you get the Bucks who just go, guys, you know what? Let's just be real about the situation. The Magic's just not going to happen today. Do you guys forfeit? Let's see the fight.
Yeah. Let's get 2 rounds of this in. Like, we'll be in the background cheering our balls off. We're the big winners. Let's do this.
So before, did anybody have any last mentions for the fight? I know, Kevin, you wanted to bring up the embrace between the new bros,
Oh my
Anderson
God.
Silva and John Jones.
Yeah, I also couldn't tell if he might have done a little bump right there in front row alley. Like it felt like they might have been like, let's get blazed, get that coke out. I don't got to get tested. Let's do this. They had a real moment. Are they thinking about going into tag team?
If they would, it would be one of the best tag teams I think you could assemble.
They should go over and do like a WCW, whatever, WWE, whatever vowel is after the WW now. They should go do with that. They would make a ton of money.
That's good. I'm glad you said Val, because it shows that you're trying to be smarter than what I guess it really appears. But
Doing my best.
let's go with this. All right. So obviously that was a fight that happened. Different opinions on where we want to see Anderson Silva. Personally, I still want to see him in the cage. I don't know that I need to see him in a title hunt, but yes, obviously GSP would be a great fight if we would ever even get that. But it just depends on if GSP ever wants to come down from, doing the most exciting things one does with money. But I don't know. Much like Pacquiao and Mayweather, I feel like we'll never get the fight we ever wanted to see. So there's that. Let's move on to the other fights. Tyrone Woodley, we talked a little bit about the weight cut. What'd you guys end up thinking of the fight, Kevin?
This was one of those fights that I guess was kind of boring in totality. Like it didn't have a lot of strikes. It didn't have a lot of wrestling. It did have a lot of acting like they were going to strike and acting like they were going to wrestle, and big letdown. And it started with the weight cut. It probably got worse when Tyrone Woodley said he was just mad at the situation. And Kelvin Gastelum was probably like, oh, it's like my parents saying they're disappointed in me. It's worse. It just felt like a fight that no one gave a shit about. Anyone?
Okay,
Anyone
Ruben.
else feel different?
I thought the fight with Tyrone Woodley was pretty terrible. Woodley is usually pretty aggressive, and he picks his shots, but he usually comes forward, takes a couple shots here and there.
Yeah. Didn't do that at all.
Like Kevin was saying, they both were. Can't hear me?
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm impressed that you're agreeing with me.
Oh, okay.
I'm impressed
Yeah.
with your evolution as a fight analysis.
Yeah, they punches and fainting shots and fainting feints, and man, I don't even know what's going on with them. And when Tyrone did finally hurt him, he I don't know, he usually does. He had Pudge on wheels, and he just could not put him out. That was very.
I'm sorry, hold on. Let's all take a moment for Pudge on wheels. That's what you were referring to this as?
Yeah, Pudge on wheels. That was great. I think that goes into Metaphor of the Year candidate. I know we don't have anyone that sound edits, but
on wheels. First of all, on behalf of fat people everywhere, how dare you? Second of all, Pudge on Wheels sounds like the opposite of Meals on Wheels. They just give food to people who are already fat. They're just like, you're fat. Here's some more food. Take it. Eat it.
Pudge on Wheels.
I don't even have any more to say on this other than this. Do you think it changes the fight when you have Kelvin, who's obviously fighting Tyrone Woodley, but at the same point is told that no matter how he fights, he's going to have to go up a division? So in a certain way, it's not like you're cementing any further status or an argument for 170. At this point, you're making the argument for 185. And I got news for Kelvin. There was a reason he dropped down from 185 to begin with. It's a very tough category, and even more murky now in the fact that, Jesus, Weidman's out, and Vitor Belfort doesn't want to fight for an interim title unless it's somebody he really wants to fight. So what do you guys think? Does that change your idea as a fighter when you go into that? Is it okay to play a little more safe? Let's start by Kevin. What do you think?
No, and I think Kelvin Gastelum, to your point, is going to get his ass kicked at 185. Like, not a great sign for him.
I mean,
And
Kev, isn't the thing, like, he won a very tough season of The Ultimate Fighter. And the first thing he did after he won was he goes, "Hey guys, I'm going down to 170." And you go, "Well, what was that all about then?
Yeah.
Why did he do this?"
It made sense when he did it, just because he is tiny for a 185er. But, I don't know. Some fighters look better. Like, Anthony Rumble Johnson looks better. There's the one example that I can point to of guys that went up a weight class, by the way. There's so many that don't get any better. I hope it goes well. I hope we do see him and he is back as the fighter we know, but that was not the fighter we know. And frankly, if I came in 9 pounds overweight, I'd really want to beat the shit out of that guy. I would. I'd want to fucking end it so people were like, yeah, let's bring him back. So my desperation meter would be turned up, not down.
All right. So you would knock out Pudge on wheels.
Oh,
Ruben, I'm going to ask you
I'd
this.
go Pudge. I'd bury my fucking fat in his face. I'd take all 15 pounds of that extra and just get him. I'd just put it on him. Yes.
Out of context theater will have a field day with whatever Kevin was talking about there. But let's go and talk about the next fight. I have to ask you this, Ruben, because it's bothering me. You were very easily rooting for Joe Lauzon. We in the BJJ community love Joe Lauzon. Is it time for him to not be fighting anymore?
You might be onto something. However, I have a hard time saying that. He's not that old, but maybe he has taken too many beatings. I don't know. It'd be easier for me to say yes if he was a little older, but I do have a lot of love for J-Lo, and I'm probably going to cheer for him no matter who he fights, just because, I've been watching him for such a long time. He's a really good jiu-jitsu guy. He looks like the illegitimate child of The Undertaker and Sigourney Weaver. How can you not cheer for him?
So how long did it take you to write that joke? Like, how long were you sitting on Sigourney Weaver and The Undertaker?
Well, I was looking at his face, and then I was seeing him standing up when he was clearly knocked out dead. And I was thinking, man, that reminds me, you get the shit beat out of him, and he would back up every time, right?
Oh, so what you're saying is he just didn't have the urn. If he had the urn, everything would have been just fine.
Oh, bear. That's the scene factor.
Well, there you go. I will say this. It is always hard to tell a fighter when they need to step down. The only reason I guess I can say that about him wanting to not see him in the octagon as much anymore is because I've seen his wars. They've been exciting. He has a ton of fight bonuses because of how exciting he fights. But it looked a little zombie-like out there, and it was scary, especially when I was yelling from my seats. And I don't know if you were doing this, Kevin, to stop the fight. Like, I wanted to figure out if there was some way I could yell for the referee to just stop. Like, I threw a towel from my viewing party, but I don't think the ref saw it.
He might have missed it. He might have missed it. I agree. The fight might have ended prematurely. I disagree that Lauzon should go. And I have one simple path. His name was Chris Lieben. Chris Lieben had these moments where if he was on the main card, maybe it wasn't quite time yet. And then he would drop down into those prelims. Because who the fuck doesn't want to see Joe Lauzon fight, right? Keep him in. Let him do some prelim work. Maybe he knocks somebody out. Maybe he doesn't. Either way, cool. Watch him fight some new kid. That's always good to go. So he should follow that Chris Lieben path and get like 4 or 5 more fights out of the undercard because that's where he's.
Okay.
But Iaquinta also might be really good. He might be super good.
Okay, I mean he is good. I think he definitely jumped a level if he's getting Joe on that one. But
he certainly is winning in the category of apathetic facial expression. No one beats him in that category.
The highly contested competition of the UFC.
Facial expression.
Mm-hmm. All right. I'm going to ask you this. Ruben, what did you think of the arm triangle that finished Tim Botch?
Oh, that was devastating because I picked Boch to win. That was a great fight. I could not believe Talis Leitch decided to stand up and strike. What a big difference from when he fought Anderson. Did not see it going that way. Did not think he was going to stand up. They both rocked each other. When Boach escaped that first arm triangle, I was, standing and screaming at the TV, and then he landed the fucking head and arm, and then it was a wrap, and I was pissed.
I mean, it's hard to be, really, really happy about it. We here at the podcast, that is the preferred submission finish, so we're always happy when we see something like that happen. However, I will ask this, and you brought up something that's really interesting, which is, you really thought they were going to stand up the whole time? Because I thought that was Thales' way of winning, because I don't want to stand up and trade with Tim. That just puts him into the fight. Kevin, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, I guess I didn't see it ending the way it ended. Obviously, it was crushing to me as someone who has a pretty strong record of going Team Bosch. It was crushing. It was also like an enjoyable moment when someone reaches inside a puppet. Like, that's kind of how it felt. It was torturous, but in a good way, because that arm triangle was fucking beautiful. He choked the shit out of him. He jumped right at him out, threw his legs across into that like judo throw, just really ripped into it. It was perfect. So I felt great.
Big fans here. I thought it was a great finish. And when we're talking about great finishes here, let's also talk about Thiago Alves. And Kev, you did pick somebody in this fight. Do you remember who you picked?
Yes, I do remember who I picked.
Okay, what were your thoughts?
I couldn't but fucking leave. He pulled a Seattle Seahawks moment in that goddamn fight. And spoiler alert if you haven't seen the Super Bowl. The way Jordan Mean came out and just got kicked so hard in the stomach felt like somebody whispered in his ear, hey, remember you're negative 280 and on the Vegas line, and we put $7,000 that you were going to lose. So just remember that. Like, I think you said what you needed to say by beating the ever-living shit out of him for those first 2 rounds, nearly stopping the fight multiple times. So just remember that we could all head to Aspen before your next fight.
Okay, hold on. Kevin, you're on the vague way of accusing this of almost being. Are you accusing this of being him taking a fall?
It was weird. He's just beating the shit out of Thiago Alves, and then all of a sudden a kick to the stomach has him like.
Let me bring this up real quick.
At the camera.
I think the thing that you are bringing up is interesting because I alluded to the fact of it could have been a fall, like it looked a little awkward, like staged, like as a joke, and Twitter was very quick to let me know the following: have you ever been kicked in the stomach? But like there's no way that could have been like a fucking fit. And I'm like, guys, if you look at the footage, I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying comedically, if you see a person get hit and kicked in the stomach and then go, oh, ow, and then take a second to think about it and go, oh, wait, ow, fall to the ground. Comedically, yes, it does look like a fucking fall, although that looked like one hell of a kick. Ruben, were you surprised by it? And were you surprised in the fact that you saw that coming? You saw that fight go down exactly the way it needed to.
Oh, yeah, I called it, punch for punch, kick for kick. I knew exactly the way it was going to happen. And if you watch the post-fight wrap-up with Joe Rogan, so did Thiago. He said, yeah, I'm back. He was so confident about his performance. It was funny. Man, Jordan Mean is pretty good. He surprised me. He surprised me that first round. I thought another pick was going to go down the drain. Thank God Thiago pulled out that random kick to the gut. But I'll let you guys know, for someone that has been hit in the gut like that, it is very much a delayed reaction. Very, very often it can happen like that. Guys, go back and see, I don't know who, someone punched De La Hoya in the ribs.
Oh,
and
God. Don't bring real things into this. This is why people on Twitter are stupid. Don't try and actually analyze what we're saying.
No, but it does happen like that. It really does.
We do.
Sometimes
Everybody knows that.
Like...
I'm not going to find out something new from somebody who's going off of one of my jokes on Twitter and go, you know what, guys? You've enlightened me. I'm going to try next time and bring real analysis to this. No, that's
I'm
not the way it
serious.
works.
Yeah,
here.
that's the first.
I'm
Besides,
saying I have been kicked there, and you know what? I know it could be debilitating. I've had the wind knocked out of me. However, I'm just saying that still doesn't make it any less hilarious to watch this man go, "Ooh, ow, ow, yeah, ow." So let's go there. And let's talk about, I just wanted to bring up this last fight, which was Misha Tate versus Sarah McMahon. Let's talk about how in the very beginning, Kevin, was it not scary for Misha getting hit on the button?
Terrifying. And you know we're Team Tate at this podcast. If you know anything about Verbal Tap, Team Tate. We're deep in the corner. She was getting the shit kicked out of her. And it was reminiscent of the Carmouche fight. Except, you kind of remember why Misha Tate's good. And it's never because she comes out strong. She always comes out, gets in a tangle, throws some crazy judo hip tosses in, and just becomes a badass. You gotta love that. She's got grit. That's some badass women. Great women's fight, though. Great fight.
She did a good job. I thought it was really weird. There was a 30-27 in there.
Yeah.
If we're being honest.
Who saw that?
Where did that happen in that first round?
Which fight were you watching?
Are you talking about the round when Sarah McMahon broke her orbital bone? I'm not really sure. Okay. So I thought that was a good fight, but the only other fight I wanted to bring up, and I guess this is more of a comment, was Ed Herman, I guess in the post-presser, days before the fight, said the following. I know you guys will laugh when I bring this up, but I'm just saying, stylistically, I would be a bad fight for Anderson Silva.
Oh
this
my
was
God.
hours before getting violently knocked out. So it was very
Oh
hard
my
not
God.
to associate those two things.
He's right.
I don't think there's more to say there.
Laugh.
I really
we are
don't.
gonna
I think
laugh.
that's it.
Everybody's gonna laugh.
But I do have to ask this before we get to the results. I just had one quick question that I needed to ask Ruben. Ruben, are you here?
Yeah.
Okay, Ruben, I just wanted to ask you real quick. Who did you have in Thiago Santos versus Andy Enns?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, who did you have in Thiago Santos versus Andy Enns?
I have no idea. I don't even remember picking that one.
You didn't, so I'm asking you who you're picking now.
Whoever won that fight.
Okay, good. You picked Thiago Santos. Very good job, which would mean that you actually won.
What?
Yeah, see what
Nice.
happened here, Kevin, is you guys actually tied, but he didn't have a pick for that fight. So we went down to tiebreakers. Neither of you got anything right. And we wanted to make sure that we gave him the ability to go ahead and pick his last pick, which means congratulations, Ruben. You won this installment of Over Under Kevin.
What?
Yeah.
There's a huge asterisk next to this one.
Absolutely not, because if anything, it means that with less fight picks, Kevin, he not only tied you, but his actual picking percentage was higher than yours. Therefore, Ruben, I believe you are the winner of what?
There's a
Over
different,
under. And
there's
the bet.
There's a
what
different way
was
to
the
look
bet?
at this. There's a very different way to look at this, and that's that in the chance to give a pick, he was
Kevin,
so
no.
simple-minded that he forgot to make one.
No, here's the thing, Kevin. He had the opportunity to discuss, but it was when you had said something so incredibly stupid that we really had to bypass it. It was when you were falling down. Now, Kevin, here's the other part of that sense. And I would probably be a little bit more forgiving and maybe call it more of a tie. But, Kevin, here's the other thing. You picked originally Ed Herman to win. Remember the guy we talked about who just said that he was a bad stylistic matchup for Anderson Silva?
Yes.
You picked him. And do you know who talked you out of picking him?
Who?
That would be me. Therefore, I am judge, jury, and executioner here, and Ruben wins. So you wouldn't have reversed it unless I pushed you into it. So, as I said, Ruben won. Yep, go back and listen to the podcast.
This is the weirdest. What did he win? What was the bet?
Ruben, do you remember what you won?
Yeah. Do Kevin has
Okay,
to take do a play on words with the don't. Yeah, that's what you have to do.
What was it?
Hey, hold on, Ruben. Do us one more favor. Do you mind saying that over again, real quick?
He's cutting in and out.
It's with words on the phrase "Don't be scared, homie," and posted all over social media. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, so let me see if I get this straight. Kevin has to do something on his social media where it says, "Don't be scared, homie." What was the other part of it?
It doesn't have to. It's just like, what do the words "Don't be scared, homie" inspire? I'm looking for an artistic expression of that. And he has two different social media profiles, right? What is it, Facebook and Twitter?
Yeah.
Yep.
So one for each would do just fine.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think that settles that.
Okay, I'll definitely do one, and I'll tag it right at him for Instagram, and then I'll do one for Facebook and Twitter that might also have a YouTube component.
There you go.
Okay. Sure. But I will caution you, Kevin. Any way of trying to disrupt this and trying to proclaim that you actually won this will nullify it.
No, you need to know that's going to happen. Like, you need to know there is a huge asterisk.
Here's the problem,
right
though, Kevin.
next to this fight, and it looks like your
I'm letting
face.
you know it has to go on our social media, and I have all of those passwords as well, and I won't allow it to happen. So therefore, you have to do this straight up, and you have to admit you lost because the records clearly show it. Or I will take that footage and I will edit it properly.
I do not feel like I should have to say it out loud. I should only have to live in a world where I'm letting you rule this aristocracy because you created the bumper, but I don't feel like I should have to.
You created the bumper and you drive that segment and you came up with the guests. And you also have given me spoils of riches of, well, I don't really win, but you've made it possible. Yes, Kevin, what I'm saying to you is this. I'm very sorry for your loss, and I wish that you had known to pick better on your own. And had you picked Brunson on your own without Ed Herman's help, without my help, it would have been a tie. But it was not.
This is such a ridiculous. Like, we picked the same amount of fights. It's almost like I'm being penalized.
Same amount of fights, actually.
This is like Deflategate. It's like you fucking leashed the balls, and I'm somehow getting blamed. For the NFL's mistake.
Kevin.
Ruben,
don't be mad at Raph. Just be mad at the situation.
And therein, Ruben has figured out the exact theme that I started off this podcast. Well played, Ruben. I'm glad you follow the line of thinking here. Ruben, I want to thank you so much for being a part of our very, very special UFC 183 recap series. I know Kevin's coming off of a major loss here. Do you have any words of advice for him going forward?
No. I'm hoping this will lead through a spiraling down that will see him going through some really, really tough times. And I hope you continue losing for the rest of the year.
Jesus Christ. What a moment in the show.
It's like, first of all, I guess he's on the Diaz train of like, I'm just going to say how I feel. I'm glad I won. You step on the throat.
I just love that Ruben's the guy who sees that John Jones has a cocaine problem and goes, hey, man, here's some more cocaine. This should help.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, John Jones, why don't you stop being a pussy? Why don't you try that? That's what you yell at people with addiction problems.
Ruben, thank you so much for joining us, guys. You want to keep up with Ruben at bjjgrappling.com. Ruben, do you have any more kind of shout-outs you want to do that we can help you out with here?
Sure, yeah. Shout out Grounder Soap. They just sent me a care package, so check them out. It's a new soap company for jiu-jitsu guys. They were pretty cool. Other than that, thank you guys very much for having me on. I had a blast, Kevin. It was an honor and a privilege, minus the honor and the privilege.
Is there a soap that makes you better at jiu-jitsu, Raph, that I didn't know about?
It depends on who's paying the bills, because there's several soap companies, and I don't know that we've attached ourselves to any of them yet. But yes,
you're going to be seeing me a little less at training and a little more in the shower.
Well, that's as good a moment as any to go ahead and say thank you very much, Ruben. We hope you had a good time on here, and we will catch you later, buddy.
All right, you guys have a good night.
UFC 183, off to a great year so far. UFC, like, it was kind of a little disappointing because Donald Cerrone wasn't in the card. Did you feel that way at any point, or were you okay?
He tried to be.
Did he? I'm sure he did. He was probably like, oh God, he was. He was making himself available if Diaz didn't show up.
Correct.
Which, by the way, can we agree there was some whistleblowing journalism going on for the 24 hours that Nick Diaz either did or did not show up to some things?
No, because you're supposed to show up to open workouts. It's different when you miss your flight and Dana White is the one stirring the pot. I'm not saying they have to follow through on it, but I'm saying, Kevin, if I provided you with the flight to my wedding and I said, you need to get on this flight because here's the time, and you didn't get on that flight, I'd probably be a little pissed too.
And let's treat like the rehearsal dinner as open workouts, and I don't show up.
I swear to God, I'll kill you if you don't. It's not even me. You know what? You won't even die at my hands. You'll have met my other family members who will kill you if you're not at the rehearsal dinner. So
the mountains are north. The mountains are north. It's like you get going. Okay, well, noted. So,
good.
Donald, we're with you. Though, great fight. It was a lot of fun to watch Nick Diaz fight. And, maybe that was part of it. Maybe like, Nick, let's skip some things and really drive the PR to this thing to the nuts. How crazy, did you notice, maybe you didn't, Sports Center was live from fucking pay-per-view. It was on Sports Center for 7 minutes.
Yes, that has been a dream of Dana's, and they toned it down a little bit when they were flirting with it, because the ESPN was looking to buy or invest in the UFC in some way for a while back. When Fox ended up getting it
badly, because they have not merged those brands well.
Well, they don't have MMA journalists. They're still a very new thing. That's why you read certain things by MMA journalists and go, "What? Yeah. This is an MMA journalist?" It's a very new thing.
Drive some analysis, guys. Give them some intake. Like, why are you shying away from being able to talk fast and just quit setting up the fighters to have to answer super specific? Like, it was just like not setting them up for strategic answers, but rather setting them up for some. I didn't enjoy the coverage necessarily, but it was really cool to see it on it. It's cool to see the ESPN. They got to get they can't show highlights.
No,
I'm surprised that's not a problem. That would seem like a problem to me.
Well,
the person trying to produce that ESPN segment.
Because they want Fox. They want Fox to have the exclusive. Fox Sports 1 is supposed to be your end all be all for fight analysis and coverage.
Well, I'm sure ESPN loves that and is really interested in continuing forward. Well, we'll see how it happens out. Do you know what the details are of that? How do they do that on ESPN? Will they continue to, or are they done with that? Do you know?
Depends. I think they're probably testing out the waters. I think it's also a slow week.
So they don't have to commit to that at all? None of us know anything about television. Like, no one knows anything. You know some things. That's why I'm asking. I don't.
Sure. And I think that it's a weird relationship. I think they recognize it's becoming a bigger sport, but it was also part of a very popular sports weekend, and it happened to be another thing that was interesting. Dana White happens to be a huge Patriots fan, which only adds to the fuel to the fire. So it's an interesting thing.
Did you see the Kimmel video with
I did.
Matt Damon and Ben Affleck? Super
I
funny.
did.
Like, single funniest thing to come from Deflategate. Like,
I mean, it was as
that
funny as the
ridiculous?
sports fans of Boston could be.
Absolutely. Like, that's it. That was it. That was fantastic, though. And then with the Kimmel stuff. Anyway, I guess we're just bringing everybody up to speed on all the culture that's been going around the UFC. Right? You know, big things. Lots going on here. I don't know how Deflategate and those other things have anything to do with it, but we're just keeping it MMA. Raph,
Right.
that's it's gonna do it for the heart of the show, which means it's time for some shout outs.
Yes.
Gotta check out the new BJJ Finder app. New improved interface, looking good. I was actually messing with it, using it, hitting the share button. He's loading a ton of content, looking really good. BJJ Finder, check that out. Really excited to see the posts from our friend Christian Woodmansee and all of his pre-Worlds preps and just sort of the way he's attacking jiu-jitsu this year. Tons of fun on that end. Dr. Gardner, my orthopedist, Raph, for hooking me up with some mad painkillers and anti-inflammatories, like a steroid thing too, to get me rocking out of this knee issue and back into training. And it's time, because I'm becoming an insane person. Like, I'm having trouble focusing. All of a sudden I just go into reverting into guard. I'm watching hours of jiu-jitsu, and that can't be good. That just can't be the way. That is not the point of shout outs. I'll just move it to that's actually gonna do it for me, except, you know, to the lady friend Victoria, who's been very helpful this week. Raph?
Aw. Shout out always to Vicky. That's awesome. All right, where do we start? Let's start at Valley Martial Arts Center. It's weird.
That's how a monster would say it.
Oh, okay. I realize the portion of the show where it's me reading a bedtime story to Kevin. Payback. Yeah, you're done with that. All right. So, let's shout out John Budd this week. John Budd says the following to me. Yeah, that's going to go away real soon.
Yeah, no, I put it down.
All right.
You're not mad at me
John
about the
Budd.
situation.
Oh, I don't know. It's awful. It's skirting a very thin line right there. John Budd, I'm rolling with him. He stops for a second. He looks at me and he just goes, "Hey, how far is the wedding?" And I go, "It's about a month and a half." And he goes, "So your face can have damage inflicted to it?" And I was like, "Yeah, go nuts. You have like a month more where you can beat the shit out of me." So I appreciate that my training partners are very nicely looking out to
that's
try and keep my
cognizance.
face
Yeah,
preserved.
nice.
It's a huge thing, you know?
Yeah, that is
I just-
sweet.
I just got some engagement photos done, and when that happens, you look at it like an open slate where you go, "Oh, I don't have to worry about having my face messed up for like another month. This is great." Because the conversation's becoming more real. I'm looking at my training journal and I'm saying, I'm going to have to not train as much for a couple weeks here. That's a terrifying thought.
We're going to see Raph Vaselining up his face before jiu-jitsu training, just making sure nothing sticks.
I just love that.
Do you have one of those broken nose guards and headgear on? Like, wear that. That's like jiu-jitsu's hill.
I have headgear, and somebody has worn what I like to call the Kobe Bryant mask, but I don't wear the headgear.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's really annoying.
I'll wear it when I
worn the
have to
headgear
wear it.
yet?
Yeah, I can wear headgear. I don't mind the tripod headgear. It doesn't bother me that much.
But like as a whole, how many times have you rolled with headgear on?
5.
Okay.
Of a lot. Like, yeah.
Out
fair.
of infinity.
I mean, that's not a lot. Yeah. Like,
No.
so-
And
so
like you're thinking
twice.
those 5 sessions really saved your ears. So for me, I'm looking at it and I just go, shit. So we're getting close.
I don't have that game, where I like grind with my ear. Like, I don't do that.
I mean, that's fair, but sometimes I'm trying to be a nice guy. I'll let somebody work from side, and they'll do the shoulder of justice, if you would, which sometimes falls straight under your ear. So Kelly saw me, and she just goes, "Hey, by the way, the ear, it's looking a little swole right now." The next day, I went to jiu-jitsu and was like, "Nobody works inside on me. I'm just letting everybody know that, unless you're really, really better than me, and you're really gonna have to work for it. No more nice. No." So that is a very nice lesson I've learned. So I'm sorry, guys. I won't be the best training partner for the next month and a half. But
Or second
yeah,
best. But third best is wide open.
I will say it is a very, very coveted title I like to have. So yeah, my thanks to John Budd. My thanks to everybody over at VMAC. It's been a great week of training. My thanks to Hassan. Hassan, who's doing our Tuesday, Thursday classes. He's been doing some really cool exercises with us. And after a week away, Kevin actually, because I also haven't been training that much, I got sick, and Kevin goes, "Hey, Raph, how was it?" And I go, "Kevin, no, I don't want to. I don't feel it's right to talk jiu-jitsu with you. You're injured." And like, Kevin never goes out of his way to be that pathetic to ask, but Raph, talk about jiu-jitsu.
What? I
tell
knew
me
you
about
were
it.
back, and I felt good for you to be back, and I thought I
But
should.
what's the underlying part of that sentence that you're sending me, Kevin? Just
that I'm a
really
good
think about
friend.
it. No,
That I'm
no,
just that
that's not
thoughtful.
true. It's just that your knee, you looked at your knee and you're like, "Ow, who's training, Raph? Tell me about your training. How many times did you drill it?"
Put a little more ice on it, because I can't do triangles. Did you do one?
Oh. So, yeah, so Hassan's doing some really cool exercises. Really been pushing me, and I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, so that's been some good stuff. I also want to shout out my old man, because he's just awesome. And when you can do that, and my dad's a baller, you just do that every once in a while. Want to shout out my good friend Octavio, who held it down for us. We had a nice viewing party at his place. Kev, let me tell you something. Octavio, great host. Not only that,
Yeah?
his carne asada game, very strong.
Ooh.
So, dude was holding it down on the ones and twos, and did a really, really nice hosting UFC 183 party for all of us. And before we get on out of here, I just want to say just a couple quick words. I had a family member pass away. His name is Peter Wright. He is, Kev, you may not know this. He's like one of the first persons I remember who ordered pay-per-views for us, be it for fights or be it for wrestling or be it for anything. So he's like the first person I remember who would actually go out of his way to order it for us. And he was the owner of our pub, our family pub called Maggie's Pub. And I just remember him being such a consummate, great host. So when I talk about my friends like Octavio, and we always look to see who's a good host. And our good friend Peter was really nice, always super considerate. And it really is a shame that he unfortunately passed this week. But I know my family is going to remember him very, very well. We have great memories of him, great memories of everything he did for all of us. So I just wanted to send a quick shout out to him and to his lovely wife, Diane, who is, I know, terribly missing him. So to the two of them, I just want to say a quick shout out. And yeah, thank you very much, Peter. I appreciate it. So that'll do it for me on shout outs this week.
As always, to the people that buy the fights, cheers, sir. That is going to do it for us tonight here at Verbal Tap. I'm Kevin. Thanks for listening.
Good night and good fight.
Ba-dum-bum-bum-bum. Ba-ba-dum-bum.